So during my 10 years as a volunteer for the Urban League movement, I gained a lot of knowledge and thoughts about voting. So I want to share them. I think a big thing, particularly with trying to get people to vote, that I learned because during my presidency, I was president of the Urban League Young Professionals of New Orleans. And so I served a 2-year term, and during my presidency, we were trying to get people to fill out the census. And so we got a lot of workshops and information on how to successfully do that. And one thing that I learned was that sometimes with older generations or older people saying, Republican versus Democrat, this versus that, liberal versus conservative, like those keywords is enough to get some of them activated or most of them activated to be against something. But when you get to millennials and Gen Z, you have to tell them the why. You have to tell them why it matters. You have to tell them how it affects their lives. Otherwise, they're not going to be activated. I think that kind of parallels older generations being raised in a do as I say, which for me as an elder millennial, like I was raised in some of that do as I say. But the millennials are now bucking the system. The Gen Z are now bucking the system, and you really have to give the why of why somebody should do something outside of it's a Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, any kind of red alert words or whatever you call them. We need more like meat than that. Something that I concentrated on during my presidency, because a lot of people, whether it's in the Urban League movement or outside of it, concentrate on voter registration, but I concentrated on voter education because I remember as a person with a bachelor's degree, father who has a PhD, mother who is a minister and has been an entrepreneur and very intelligent. Like I have intelligent parents, including my stepmom. Like my dad and my mom like are very intelligent. Like if you think of baby boomers of having to teach everything, like my parents are like that. My parents are very intelligent, and so that's where I come from. But I remember living in New Orleans and pumping my gas one time and looking at the gas pump and seeing the Secretary of Agriculture and Forestry sticker on the gas pump. And I just was like, just logically was like, how does the Secretary of Agriculture or the Department of Agriculture and Forestry have anything to do with gas? Which that's from being a 20-something-year-old at the time. And so I just like, what do forests and trees have to do with gas? That was like my high level trying to understand that. So even though I am educated, I was like, I don't understand this. So I know that people of varying educations, people of varying willingness to do research are not going to understand certain things. During my presidency, I decided to put things in plain English. Like if we were voting, like in one particular election, we were voting for certain district judges and for different amendments. And so I would be like, okay, in this judge's district, they're going to be voting on domestic violence and this is how it affects. So this is the, 101 point whatever B or something like that. And that they'll be voting in the future on this. And this is like, if you have ever been a victim of domestic violence, this is how you will want to make sure that you vote for a good judge. So I would do things like that because it doesn't matter if you register people to vote if you don't educate them on how to vote. You're just sending them in there blind. Additionally, I think if people vote every 4 years, you're not in the conversation at all. Like, yes, the president affects our lives, but the president is kind of the least important person in our direct daily lives, and people care about their day to day. When we were doing the census, we learned that you want to fill out the census because that is how your state gets money. If your state thinks that there are less people, they get less money. That money goes to Head Start, Medicaid, Medicare, and all type of different resources. As far as voting is telling somebody you exist. So something else that I learned is if there's a district where there is 0% voting, nobody lives there. They know people live there, but essentially nobody lives there, or nobody cares enough to tell them that they live there. So if you need a bus stop, they're using voting numbers sometimes to determine if they are going to put a bus stop in your neighborhood or on your route. So if there is 0% turnout, you are not a constituent. You don't exist to some of these states, some of these districts, some of these cities. So they use the voting numbers to determine whether to put resources in your neighborhood. That's another thing that I learned. Voting every 4 years does nothing. So people are always like, oh, we should vote for, the Green Party, these independent parties, or anybody who's not Republican and Democrat. And strategically, you have to be more strategic. You have to vote in the other elections and get the party that you believe in these other positions at a local level, at a state level, at a federal level, Senate, House of Representatives. You need them to be you need to diversify in the party that you prefer at the lower levels, so you have somebody to advocate for you once you want to vote for them for president. You can't just arbitrarily vote for a president that is a non-Republican and Democrat because you don't have the votes at the Senate or House of Representatives level, like when you talk about like the Electoral College and stuff like that. You don't have those people to vote for them on that lower level. So you don't have the constituents who have voted for them at lower levels to fight for them to get that presidency. So it's all interconnected. Additionally, as a Black American, I know people often say like, well, my vote doesn't count. And consistency is the only way we would ever be able to tell that. I don't know if we ever get there. I kind of highly doubt it. But unless most Black people vote in every election for a period of at least 10 years, we will never know if how much our vote matters. Because you can't just vote every 4 years and be like, see, the person that we voted for didn't get in. So it didn't work. That's not how it works. And when people talk about voting for the lesser of two evils, if you think just voting is the ending of your civic duty, that is incorrect. There are, these people in particularly southern states. One of my coworkers, when I lived in Louisiana, was from Mississippi. Her family, there were 3 men or multiple men that would determine who they vote for and pass that around their family. So they didn't even think about who to vote for. It was a few people in their family who would determine who to vote for. These are the same people who are also writing letters and calling out their politicians. If you're not calling out your politicians, what do you expect them to do? If you're not sending letters, I'm in a travel group where people will send a letter to get a passport expedited, but they won't send a letter to call out their senator. They'll contact their senator because they want to go to this embassy. They need this help to go to another country to travel, but people won't reach out to their senator for their daily lives and how it affects their daily lives. So people are willing. It's just they do what they want for what they want to do. I personally think the only way to get better candidates is to hold them to any type of standard. We're not holding them to any type of standard. We don't reach out to them at all. We just don't vote and think that's going to do anything. For example, when I vote, I always do my research. What I've noticed with candidates is that they will put up a website. Certain candidates, and you can guess which ones, will put up a website and put their whole life story, their kids, their family, the American flag, and that's it. They won't have nary a platform on their website. If people were actually doing the research, we could call out these people and say, why are your policies or what you believe not on your website? When I do my research for voting, if the person's policies or thoughts aren't on their website, I'm not voting for them. I'm an independent. I'm not voting for them. I don't care what your label is. I'm not voting for you. I need your policies and what you believe in need to be on your website. But if we continue to let them put their name, their bio, and a donation link on their website to run for office, they're never going to get better. Just like the conversation around paying people, a minimum wage. If you pay people peanuts, they not gonna work that hard. If you pay people more, they have more incentive to work harder. It's the same concept. You have to hold the people accountable. Those are the topics I could think of off the top of my head. I'm sure I'm missing more and I'll think about more, but that's what I wanted to share in this video.